All right. Hi, first graders. This is your weekly reading lesson with Miss Doyle. And for this lesson, you will just need a paper and pencil again if you have it. If not, that's okay. You can just listen along. And today we will be learning about drawing conclusions from a story. So let's get started. Our agenda here shows that our know and show is going to be first for 5 minutes. Our work time A is going to be 15 minutes learning about vocabulary, drawing conclusions, and doing a read along of amazing animals. And work time B is going to be 6 minutes, and that's going to include doing a graphic organizer. And then at the very end, we're going to have a cool video about what we're learning about today. So let's get started. All right, so for our objective today, we have two. The first one reads, I can use text evidence and prior knowledge to draw conclusions. Number two, I can visualize while reading amazing animals to aid in comprehension. Okay, so looking at these two objectives, we're going to identify the know, show, and the how. I already went ahead and labeled the nose with red or hot pink, whatever color that is, and I underlined the shows. So for what will know, what are we going to know at the end of this lesson according to these objectives? We are going to know how to draw conclusions, and we are going to know how to visualize. How we are going to show what we know, how we're going to show that we know those conclusions and visualizing is by using text evidence and prior knowledge in the first objective, and in the second objective, it will be reading amazing animals. That's how we're going to know those two things. And how are we going to show that we have mastered those two things? Well, we're going to have that graphic organizer at the end of the lesson after we read to show that we know how to draw conclusions and visualize. Okay, and this next slide writes that out for us. We have our know here, so conclusion and visualizing. Show is using text evidence and prior knowledge, which we will get into what that means in a second because I know those are kind of confusing. And reading amazing animals. And how? Completing that graphic organizer. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started and look at some of our high frequency words. And as a reminder, high frequency words means words that may be difficult that we will hear a lot in this lesson today. So that just means words that we're going to see a lot and kind of are hard to sound out. So we're just going to go ahead and tell you what they mean now so you're not confused throughout the lesson. So the first one is conclusion. We're going to learn about that all throughout our lesson today, and that is something we will actually learn about in a second. So we're going to wait on the definition for that one. Visualizing. So visualizing is when you read something and you are visualizing it in your mind. So that means you are taking what you're reading and making a picture of it in your mind. So when we read stories, there's pictures in the stories that help us visualize, but you still have to create some sort of story and picture in your mind. That's what visualize means. Then we have detail down here. Detail. Detail we've learned about a lot, so we should know what that means. So we'll move on to prior knowledge. Prior knowledge means things that you already know. Prior, this word right here says prior. Prior just means before. It's a fancy word for before. So before knowledge. And knowledge is what you know. So if we put that together, that means things you know before today. So things we've learned before, things you've learned at home, read about in books, seen on TV, all of that can be useful today with our lesson. Okay, and evidence. Evidence means that you read something and you can go back and show that you read that somewhere. So let's say you tell me something about a story that you read a couple weeks ago, and I say, I don't really believe you. Well, you can go back and find that book that you read and show me in that story what you told me, and that is evidence. So you showed me exactly where you saw it and read it so that I know you're correct and that you have evidence. Okay? And last one is comprehend. Comprehend is what we are teaching in my class all the time. That's when we read a story and we're able to tell what the story was about and what we learned. So that way we're not just reading for no reason, we're making sure we're actually learning something. That's comprehend. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and switch over to our Journeys books and we're going to learn our words to know for today. So go ahead while I'm switching screens, get your paper and your pencil out if you have it, and we are going to go over our words to know for this week. Okay, so we're going to go through each one of these words, and if you have that paper and pencil, just like the last video I did, I would like for you guys to write each one of the words. So we have 8 words to know. Write each word and try writing them each in a sentence. Again, it gives you a little sentence here, so if you can't think of one, you can copy that sentence down, but try to make your own sentence if you can, because most of these words, you might not know how to spell them, but you should know these words already. Okay, so let's get started with box number 1, right here. Learning. This baby giraffe is learning how to walk. Box number 2. Begins. The lion cub begins to get stronger. Number 3. Until. These owls can't fly until they are older. Number 4. 8. The 8 little swans go for a swim. Number 5. The young hippo will be very big soon. Oh, young. I think I forgot to say the word. The word for number 5 is young. Young. Number 6. Follow. The bear cubs follow their mother. Number 7. Years. An elephant can live for 70 years. And last one, number 8. Baby. This baby panda is eating plants. And of course, you can pause this and write those down if you need to, and then just come back when you're done. But we're going to go ahead and move on and start learning about our details and drawing conclusions for today. Read and comprehend. Again, I encourage you guys to follow along with reading if you can, or to challenge yourself. You can go ahead and pause each page before I read it and try reading it yourself, especially when we get into the story. But if not, you can always just listen and follow along with your finger as I read. I will try to slow down my reading. Conclusions. Sometimes authors do not tell all the details. Readers must use text evidence from the words and pictures and think about what they already know to make a smart guess about what the author does not tell. This smart guess is a conclusion. So remember in our high frequency words, I said we were going to learn later what a conclusion is. So we just learned what a conclusion means in today's learning. It is a smart guess. So we get all the details from the story and then we make a conclusion, which is a smart guess from the details in the story. Okay, starting back here. Use a chart to write details and conclusions about what you need. So this chart right here shows what we are going to be doing after we read this story. We are going to be looking for 3 details from the story or things that we already know, prior knowledge, to make a conclusion, to draw a conclusion, okay? Down here, visualize. As you read, picture in your mind what is helping to help, or what is happening, to help you understand. So remember, we're making a picture in our mind because if we're learning about these amazing animals today, unfortunately, we're not going to have them right in front of us. And we're probably not going to be able to make a field trip. But some of them we did see at the zoo when we went. So you can visualize from the story or from when we went to the zoo or other books you've read, or even just the words that the story is telling us, to visualize what these animals look like and live like every day. Okay? Now over to this next page. preview the topic. Animals. Animals have special body parts that help them do amazing things. Kangaroos have very strong legs that help them jump very far. Some monkeys can use their tails to hang from branches. Anteaters have long noses that they use to grab insects under dirt. You will read more interesting facts about animals in Amazing Animals. Okay, so let's go ahead and finally get to our story for the week. All right, so this is our title page here because we see our title and our author here, so we know that is our title page. So let's go ahead and read that title. Amazing Animals by Gwendolyn Hooks. Let's read about Gwendolyn Hooks over here really quick, where it says meet the author. Gwendolyn Hooks. Gwendolyn Hooks wrote this story because she loves animals. This story is about wild animals, she explains. I don't own any wild animals, but I do have a pet cat. Okay, so she wrote this story because she loves wild animals. And before we get to our next page, we have to read our essential question. It says, why do some animals have spots or stripes? This is in that box in the bottom corner down here on page 47. Why do some animals have spots or stripes? And I'll give you a hint. That is actually the question we are going to be answering in our graphic organizer at the end. So make sure we're paying attention, looking for details to help us answer that question. Okay, let's get started. Big eyes, long beak, thick fur, big squeak. Animals get a lot of help as they grow up. Let's find out about 8 amazing animals. Polar bear. A polar bear has thick fur. Each hair is like a tube. The hair has no color, like glass. The sun makes it look white. How does thick white fur help? So go ahead, and if there is someone next to you, tell them and try and answer, why do you think having thick white fur helps polar bears? Okay, if you're not done, go ahead and pause it and then come back. We're going to turn the page and see what else we can learn about polar bears. Thick fur helps polar bears stay warm. The color of their fur looks the same as snow. This helps them hide. Where does this cute young polar bear like to hide? Where does it look like this young polar bear is hiding in this photo? Elephant. An elephant has a long nose. The nose, the nose is called a trunk. It takes many years for an elephant to grow 2 big teeth. These teeth are called tusks. How do tusks and a trunk help? Go ahead and turn and talk to the person next to you about how do tusks and a trunk help elephants. Elephants use their tusks to scrape bark off trees. Then they eat the bark. These elephants are learning to use their trunks to get water. Sometimes they will spray water at a friend. Camel. Some camels have 1 hump. Some have 2. All camels have 2 rows of eyelashes. How do humps and thick eyelashes help? Go ahead and tell again the person next to you, how do you think humps and thick eyelashes help camels? A camel's hump has fat inside. On long trips, a camel's body uses the fat for food. A camel's eyelashes keep out the desert sand. This baby camel will follow his mother when the herd goes from place to place. Duck. A duck is a bird. It has 2 feet, and each foot has 3 toes. A duck has a beak, too. How do feet and a beak help? Again, try and guess, why do feet and a beak on ducks help them? Ducks use their feet to swim in the water or walk on land. They use their beaks to eat plants and bugs. Look, this duck uses her beak to clean her friend. A giraffe has spots. A giraffe has a long neck. How do spots and a long neck help? Again, turn and talk. How do spots and a long neck help the giraffe? A giraffe's spots help it hide. A giraffe's long neck helps it reach the leaves of trees. The giraffe's long neck helps her reach her baby. She gives him a big kiss. Porcupine. A porcupine has soft quills when it is born. When quills get sharp in a day or 2. How do quills help? How do we think these long, sharp quills are going to help a porcupine? Turn and talk. Quills help keep a porcupine safe. If an animal begins to come too close, the porcupine backs into it. The sharp quills hurt. Quills tell this cub to stay away. Turtle. A turtle has a shell that is very hard. How does a hard shell help? Turn and talk. A turtle can hide inside its shell from an animal that may hurt it. The turtle waits until the animal goes away. Then the turtle comes back out. You're safe now, turtle. Dolphin. A dolphin's tail has 2 parts called flukes. A dolphin has 2 flippers. How do tail flukes and flippers help? Turn and talk. How do those help dolphins? A dolphin flips its tail. Excuse me, let me read that over again. A dolphin flips its tail flukes up and down to swim fast. It uses its flippers to turn to the left or right. These 2 dolphins swim away fast. Who will be first? Have fun, dolphins! Okay, so that concludes the story for today. And then we are going to read this page and then flip back to our PowerPoint. Conclusion. Use text evidence from amazing animals to draw conclusions about what the author does not say. The author does not tell you what it is like where the polar bears live. What do the pictures show? Which words help you? What else do you know about polar bears? Use a chart to write your conclusions. So we're going to look back and see what we can look at in the pictures of the polar bears and what it says on those pictures on those pages again. And then we are going to switch back over to the PowerPoint and we are going to make a chart, a graphic organizer like this with 3 details and draw a conclusion together. Okay, so let's find back our polar bear page right here. So we see a picture of two polar bears with their white fur, and we read that they have thick white fur. And then on this page we see them in snow, and it says that the thick fur helped them stay warm. So we need to think about what can we conclude from those details. So let's review first. Drawing conclusions. Remember, we need 3 details. That can be something we read or learned today, but it can also be prior knowledge, so something you already knew. Details are the clues in the story that help us comprehend, and the conclusion is a smart guess made by the reader based on what they read and already know. So the conclusion will be the smart guess. And remember, our question from the story is, this will go away. Okay, we can't really read it, but it says, what is it like where polar bears live? So we need to find 3 details on what polar bears live like, what kind of fur they have, what we saw in the story, and what we already know in order to form a conclusion describing what it's like where polar bears live. So think about that, and then I'll show you what I came up with so we can make an organizer. Okay, so this is my organizer that I made. And you don't have to write this one down. You can just listen for this one. For the next graphic organizer, we're going to ask another question, and that one I'll have you write down. So right now, just listen. So detail 1 that I came up with from the text. They have white fur like snow. Detail 2, their fur helps them keep warm. That one I also found from the text in the story. And detail 3 is something that I already knew and learned in school, is that they live in Antarctica. So that is prior knowledge. With those 3 details, I formed the conclusion down here that polar bears live somewhere where it is very cold and they have to protect themselves. Since they have white fur like snow that helps them protect themselves from other animals that might want to eat them, so that way they blend in with the snow. And then because they live in Antarctica and their fur helps keep them warm, that helped me conclude that it is probably very cold where they live, because I already knew that Antarctica is cold and that their fur from the text has to keep them warm. So hopefully you got those 3 details as well, and it definitely came to that same conclusion that they live somewhere very cold and they have to protect themselves. So now that we did one together, I want you on your own to try and answer this question. Why do some animals have spots and stripes? So you can use however many details from the story that we read today. So maybe about the giraffes, maybe about zebras, anything that you can think of that has stripes or spots, and think about 3 details, and then come to a conclusion down here from all 3 of those to answer the question, why do some animals have spots and stripes? It's probably not just for fun and to make them look pretty. There's probably a reason. So go ahead and find those 3 details and form a conclusion of why some animals have spots and stripes. You can go ahead and pause this video if you have your paper and pencil and do that on your own. And I'm actually going to play a cool video that's going to answer this question for us. So go ahead and pause this and begin making your organizer. Okay, so before we get to our cool video, these are some questions that I want you to talk about with people at home with you, and or the person next to you, or just think about with yourself if you're not with someone right now. So it says, talk about these questions with your class. Well, we don't have a class right now, so try and talk to someone, maybe a parent, grandparent, brother, sister, whatever. Number 1, How do some animals stay safe? So animals have to get creative because they don't have ways that humans have to protect themselves. So they have to get creative and protect themselves. So talk about that one. And then number 2, how does a dolphin's tail help it live? So we learned a little bit about dolphins' tails and their flukes and flippers. How do those help it live? And then lastly, tell about some parts other animals have that help them. How do your hands help you? So tell about some parts that other animals have that help them that you can think of, so maybe prior knowledge, something that you already knew, or something we learned about in class before. And then how do your hands help you? All right, so now it is time for the cool video. This is where you can check what you put for your graphic organizer for how stripes and spots help animals protect themselves. This is how you're going to know if you were, correct on that. If I can get myself, here we go. All right.
Hi everybody, you're just in time. Squeaks and I were just looking into an animal mystery. We were looking through our big book of animals, and the last animal in the book caught our eye. It's a zebra. You've probably heard of them before. They look a lot like horses, but they have black and white stripes. Have you ever wondered why zebras have these special stripes? To find out, let's look a little closer at the life of a zebra. Zebras are closely related to horses, and they're a lot like them in many ways. They look a lot like horses, of course, and they run like them too, and they also eat grass like horses do. But zebras are also different from horses in some important ways. For one thing, horses can be found in many parts of the world, but wild zebras only live in Africa. Zebras also have hair on the back of their neck called a mane that's shorter and spikier than it is on horses. And of course, horses come in many different colors and patterns, but all zebras wear a coat of black and white stripes. But still, not all zebras are exactly the same. There are actually 3 different species or special types of zebra. 2 of these species are named after the kind of place they live in. The plain zebra lives on the plains, where it's mostly flat and there's lots of grass and other plants to eat. Then there's the mountain zebra, which lives, you guessed it, in the mountains. The last species is called the Grevy's zebra, and it only lives in a few special grasslands in Africa. But all types of zebras have their famous stripes, and scientists have always wondered what these stripes were for. And this is what we're curious about today. Let's look at a few ideas about how these stripes might help zebras to survive in the wild. Some scientists used to think that zebras could use their stripes to recognize each other. It turns out that each zebra has a unique pattern of stripes, just like how every person, including you, has a unique set of fingerprints on their fingertips. Maybe by looking at each other's stripes, zebras could recognize each other and their families. But you don't recognize your friends by looking at their fingerprints, so we're not sure that zebras use their stripes that way either. After all, zebras have many other ways to recognize each other, like by their smell or by the sounds they make. So scientists have also thought that zebras might use their stripes to hide from predators. Lions and hyenas are 2 predators that often hunt zebras, so some have thought that the zebra's long stripes might help them stay hidden in the tall grass. But after looking closer, scientists noticed that the zebra stripes didn't stop lions and hyenas from finding them. Instead, the predators used their noses to find the zebras by smell. They weren't fooled by the zebra stripes at all. So maybe the stripes do something else. And there's one other animal that zebras need to keep away. Horseflies. Horseflies are big, pesky, biting flies, and they often bite animals like zebras, kind of like how mosquitoes bite people. But scientists have noticed that horseflies don't seem to like zebra stripes. Something about the pattern of the black and white stripes makes horseflies confused, so they stay away from them. So maybe that's it. Today, some scientists think that the stripes help zebras avoid getting bitten by horseflies. The stripes might work kind of like a built-in bug repellent. In fact, it turns out that zebras have the most stripes in places they really don't want horseflies to bite them, like on their faces. And many people have started using the answer to this animal mystery to help protect horses, too. Some farmers have started putting zebra-striped coats on their horses to keep the horseflies away. What an amazing way to use what we've learned to help our animal friends. It's important to remember that there could be more than one right answer to a question, especially when you're dealing with nature and science. So scientists are still looking at all of the other things that stripes might help a zebra to do. Maybe you have some good ideas about what these stripes could do. If you do, ask a grown-up to help you leave your ideas below, or send us an email to kids@scishow.com. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time here at the Fort.
Alright, so hopefully you guys came up with some sort of thinking machine that says that zebras or any animals have stripes or spots to help protect themselves. Because zebras, however they want to protect themselves, like we saw in the video, and cheetahs, leopards, all other kind of animals that have those funky designs on them, they do it as a sort of protection. A lot of them use it for camouflage, which would protect them from predators from finding them out in the wild. Okay, well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope that you are all doing okay, and so are your families, and that you're healthy and safe, and we miss you guys so much. Take care.